Ascendant, Sun, Moon, or Stellium, which is a couple of planets in Aquarius. This is a Sol day, Venus hour. And we're going to talk about January. So we are already in January, so Mercury already got direct. Mars has just gotten into Capricorn, which is your 12th house, and that perhaps is a good point to start. Because you know the time of the year when the time of the once in a 2 years that Mars is getting into your 12th house. This is a time where hidden enmities or hidden quarrels or your actions just undermine you, okay? It means that you are acting in a way that is basically undermining you in a very particular way because Saturn is ruling both your 12th and your 1st. So this is a timeless teaching for you, Aquarius. The ruler of your 1st house, which means you, is the ruler of your 12th house, which means your hidden enemies. And so this is also house of loss, addictions, and so on and so forth. It's the blind spot. Okay? It's the blind spot. You don't see the 12th house from the 1st house because you have the ruler in the 12th house. It makes it even more intriguing and interesting and difficult. But it means that there is a dual nature to you where you're kind of a part is seen and a part is hidden, even to you. And the fact it exists in every person, but with you, it's more. There is more intimate relations with that which you don't see, that you don't see. So you can have a little bit more pitfalls. But on the other hand, because it's the same ruler, you can perhaps have access through the nature of Saturn to the 12th house that you don't, that other people may not experience as intimately as you do. Now, when Mars steps in, it's affecting you on a conscious level, on a physical level, more than other people because of this. It is just the same ruler. Okay, so it hits anything. It hits the nervous system part of Capricorn, and the lights are turned on the Aquarius as well, because it's the same sign. It's the same planet. What does it mean? Your actions can undermine you. You may have hidden enemies of Martian nature. What is Martian? Mars represents a young warrior or a young impulsive boy or tomboy that they just burst into the scene and they act before they think, and this can affect you. So this can, Mars is also very passionate and it's also penetrative. So somebody can try to astrally attack you. Somebody can try to project your energy. Somebody can try to, interfere with your dreams, your physical experience, okay? And you might have to set some boundaries there. So you want to be paying attention to your dreams, and you want to be clearing up the energy. Okay, you want to be clearing up the energy. You've had Pluto in Capricorn. What can I say? You probably know what is Mars next to Pluto, right? But Mars is important because Mars is a personal planet. And it's a time that you are dealing with having to set boundaries, but you can also burst out of certain types of addictions. What Pluto did not finish doing, Mars is coming to help. Mars is coming for the rescue. So Mars is strategy. Mars is exalted in your 12th house. So depending on the sect, okay, for your solar or lunar chart, this may be more or less problematic. But Mars is not at its joy at the 12th house. It doesn't really know what it's doing. okay, in there. Even if it's deeply psychological or something like this. I had a psychologist who was trying to project to my energy. And I'm like, okay, but what are you doing in my energy? You want to call me names, you want to this, you want to that, but what are you doing in my energy? What are you doing here to call me this way? Okay? So you might be dealing with such people. They can be deeply intelligent, they can be deeply psychological, they can be Martian in nature. But when it comes to you, you're like a bit the weakness that they still have to overcome and they still have to learn this about themselves. And this places a weakness in you that you still need to set boundaries. So, Saturn, the ruler of Mars, is in your second house. And this is a house of income for you, of expenses, and of values, which might be interrupted more so than before. But hey, you have Saturn out of your first house. So granted that you survived this, um, and we are, yes, talking about ingresses, but granted that you survived this and you're listening to me now, then now it's more about how I make my money, how I spend my money. So you might raise your pricing more. You might set some standards. You might get more in touch with reality, with how you value things or how you value your time. Because second house is value, and Saturn is time. This is an ongoing thing for you, but it also rules your first and 12th house. So it's also rule what's going to be affected by this Mars. If in the past a person will try to project your energy, it would affect, let's say, your body, your pet, your physical health. Now it's going to affect your income. Okay, they're going to try to mess with your finances. They're going to try to mess with your business, or with your income, or with your expenses, or even with how you spend your money. So setting boundaries there, and Saturn also rules witchcraft. So you want to be using return to sender when it's applied. My suggestion to you with return to sender, please make sure that you're not involving children and that you're not involving like other people, because there's a lot of ritual sacrifices going on in the world in general. Just right now we see it more. And we're more aware, so you can do return to sender and kind of like mitigate, ask for children to not be involved. It's just like to the person themselves. If there's a way to sweeten the things, you might be calling on Procyon. If it's something like boundaries or financial violence related with intimate violence and psychological violence, this is where you begin to be more on the Algol, Medusa Gorgon, spectrum of things that can also be helpful, especially when Uranus is approaching 22nd degree in your fourth house in April. Now, next up, Venus. She has already ingressed into Sagittarius. She's now on Antares, actually. But yes, separating from a square to Saturn. So Venus on Antares, for you, this might be good. Yes, she's ruling your ninth house, and Sagittarius is your 11th house. So you might be able to spread your teaching, especially if they are somewhat related to moral values, or in general, because it's Libra, okay? You have a ninth house Libra. Your teachings can now be very much, especially right now, when Venus is on Antares. Today is a great day for you to spread your ideas, to spread your teachings. If you make any income from your teachings, or if you have any social agenda, you might be able to speak out and you can be victorious. If there are entities or things that you have to deal with regarding your networking, your exposure, then this can be a good time to tackle that in kind of like a Venusian win-win way. It's also fit with the lunar mention today. But in general, Venus in your 11th house, it means that you are more connecting on a large social level, okay? It's not an intimate connection. It's more like when you go to a conference or when you have a networking event. then you are projecting yourself to the world, and this includes your teachings, but this is also you bring the home into your environment, which depending on what is it that you're bringing can also be charismatic, and in any way you can turn it into being magnetic and charismatic. Venus is drawing in. Okay, so you have the combination of drawing in and the reception with Jupiter. It's just a lovely time when Venus is in Sagittarius, and your dreams and goals can be more materialized even. Okay, you have a lot of opportunities, and they may involve home or involve moving or something like this, or involve traveling, or maybe traveling and living kind of like at the same time. That is quite joyous for you. And so January 14, Mercury travels to your 12th house. Okay, so Mercury is going to be in its shade period until it crosses 8 degree Capricorn. So it's still replaying the scenarios that we have been having in the past month, pretty much, because we had Mercury retrograde, and then we have Mercury direct, and it's going from Sagittarius to Capricorn on the 14th. So Mercury, you know, communication, technology, language. It can also have to do with contracts, exchanges, business, okay, exchanges of goods. 11th house is a house where you do crowdfunding, okay, where your income and exchanges are involving masses and networking. So you think about crowdfunding projects, you think about crowdfunding investments and such. There can also be like a digital. It's one of the digital coin houses. I don't understand too much in this, but it's one of the digital coin houses. So you might be looking into that. But, oh, yes, when Mercury is in Sagittarius, but on January 14, it enters your 12th house. So again, anything 12th is what you don't know that you don't know. So communication, you can undermine yourself in a communication, but also you might have communication coming to you from the dream world, and you will need to sort out this information and to be discerning, because we get a lot of stuff from everywhere, and we want to be absorbing benevolence only, okay, and that is very important. And we want to be setting boundaries, and this is about you know, all the omens that have to do with language, with telepathy, hearing, clairaudience is very mercurial, but it can also have to do with sorcery, magic, alchemy, and in this place you could just be concentrated on learning these issues, on learning the mercurial facets of experiences of the 12th, okay? Mercurial, I mean trickery, but also the tricks of communication, how to deliver a message. You might have a message in the dream, and then you write about it, and you talk about this, and so on and so forth. So this is where you get, and some of these experiences you're already been having. So you go back to this month and a half and say what has been happening. A part of this is going to kind of like try to replay itself, and this is where you can set strong boundaries. For you, you might be purchasing a course or a talisman that counteracts that, because the ruler is in your 12th, so you can counteract that by purchasing something to do with, depending on your light sect, with Saturn and Jupiter, or maybe with Fomilaut, okay? So go turn into the fixed star Fomilaut, you can petition and see what do you get of how to counteract this. And sometimes it's about counteracting, sometimes it's just about It's kind of like a person would say to you in telepathy or in your dreams, and Mercury's words, its language, something or imagery or something like this, that another person could tell you like a meme or could attack you like on social media, just doing this through telepathy. And what you got to say to them, okay, how you deal with the bully, okay? But you're here saying this, but you're here investing all this energy in me. Why? Why? I'm not against you growing your garden. I'm not against you building your dreams. I'm not against you. I have a right to live just as anybody, huh? Okay? And sometimes just understanding that. I have a right to be just as anybody. You got a problem with that, talk to God, I don't know. So, and so these people or this being or these trickster spirits or something like that, they can be tended to also through language. Okay? No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Okay? That is also a way to tackle this. And also through exposure, because Jupiter is in Venus sign and Venus is in your 11th house. So they might, in a roundabout way, they might become your teaching. You might do oh, no, okay, fine, I'm going to do a digital course about how to tackle this and these issues. You have been crossing a Pluto in your 12th house. You know the drill. You've been through this since 2008. Mars, Mercury is just a small chapter, it's the final editing of like your book on how to deal with that, which I will probably be buying because I'm Pisces here in your second house, and I'll be having Pluto in my 12th. Now let's talk about Pluto before we talk about the lunations. Pluto on yes, January 21. January 21, we have Pluto arriving at your first house again. It's been there. Okay, I want to take you back to December 2020, to December 2022, January 2023. I want to take you back to January. I want to take you back to March. Because what we've been having around this time was Saturn was going to Pisces, March, and Pluto was going to Aquarius, and then retrograde, and then inversing back into Capricorn. So, what were you doing around the beginning of this very year? Because this relates to stuff that are going to play out in a different version. Okay, the other planets are somewhere else, but certain voice where it's the Pluto in the beginning degrees of Aquarius. And what did we have? So thank you, Lada Tuncheva, for reminding us. What did we have? We had the collapsing of world banks. Okay, we had Swiss Bank, we had two big banks in the United States. How was this affecting you? And because you are ruled by Saturn and you are Aquarius, this has been affecting your path dramatically. Okay? I want you to also look at the lots, because sometimes I'm not, because the lots require a very accurate ascendant and I don't do rectification. Okay, the person who can teach me how to do rectification can be either Cressy Atasio, which is doing sidereal, it's not working with the lots, or Chris Brennan course that I also need to save to. So I don't do lots like for clients, usually. Like it just, if I can't rectify your chart to the minute, then it might not be useful for me to do a lot reading. But lots can tell you a lot about how events affect your life. Okay, and you want to also be checking at the lot. So you think about the lot of fortune is that what happens to you. Think about the lot of spirit, how you respond to what happens to you, which is also dependent on where that lot is. And you want to think about, there are many lots, okay, but there is also a lot of eros, which is more about like sensuality, erotics, and stuff like that. Like this is going to be an erotic period in your life or something like this. It's very nice And when you have a major event, I want you to take a look at the lots, because if it affects you, then you might see peak points of this particular lot appearing in the times where the onset of that, okay? I've had, and I did a study with me live video about this, you can look back a couple of months now. I've had the 9/11 impacted me very much. And I didn't think about this. And when I looked at the lots, I saw that the peak points were surrounding the 9/11, and they are about to be, I think, in 2024 as well, 2023, and I think also 2022. And I began to receive stuff about the 9/11 about 2 years ago, and I had like no idea, and kind of like various perspectives how it was seen in the world, and how it was seen by people that we don't know. And I realized that this is impacting my life more so than usual. And by the way, I have the asteroid Fairbank conjunct in my Venus. So this really impacts me, okay? So here I want you to take a look, because if it's also impacting you in a way that is visible in the lots, lot of fortune, lot of spirit, then this might mean that this bank collapse can affect your path. And you need to be very attentive, because yes, it's going to affect the future of all of us. Some of us are going to open alternative banks, okay? Think JP Morgan. Now we see JP Morgan as like, oh yes, this company that sued that guy from FTX, but hey, weren't you guys funding the companies like IBM that were putting the courses for entrepreneurs and telling them, oh, look at the toothpaste, how they enlarged the hole by 2 and then they doubled their sales. And they don't teach us about the toxins that are marketed as, do you have enough of fluoride for your baby? But this is what you were taught. And I was, and if that's what you were taught, then the people who did go to business, they had to be the people who play by these rules. And now we are reaping the fruits of that, which are not delicious. Okay? And that is a lot of cones. But JP Morgan started around the time of, kind of like showing people that your money can make money. Okay, kind of taking people from the gold and the metal per se to the air quality of money. It's becoming very relevant, especially when Pluto is going to Aquarius. I think he had Pluto in Aquarius. So you might be the next JP Morgan. And again, for now, JP Morgan is not relevant, but for his time, he was very relevant. Another way this can play out is that you might you might rebel in a certain way, or you might make certain purchases, because Saturn is now in your second house. Okay, you have to think, because Saturn was the last time. Saturn was going from your first to the second. Okay, it was going from your first to the second. Now it's in the second. So Pluto is going to impact your first house, your very physical path and your physical body and you, in a way that's going to manifest through your expenses, your purchases. So you have already had a time to, I cannot say adjust, because how can you adjust when suddenly a bank crashes and you think, have I been working all my life for ... It's not like we haven't been having that collectively since 2008, but because this was in your blind spot, you might not have been personally affected by this. However, because you also had Pluto in your 12th house, you could use it like certain people used it, and that is to channel things, to learn about how to set your boundaries in the astral. And I'm very inspired by Light Adon Sheva, who's ascendant Aquarius, and has spoken about things that in other forums they would be spoken about as psychiatric disorder, okay, and forced hospitalization. Yes, but no, she talks about setting boundaries in the astral realm. She talks about premonitions. She talks about feeling in your body what is happening in the world. So, and being and seeing truths that are not arriving to people that are not seeing that. And so you are probably understanding more what I'm talking about, because Pluto has been there since 2008 for you, and you're close to mastery of this life lesson. Now, yes, Pluto is going to your first house, Saturn is going to be in your second house. So this is a time where you could perhaps actually make certain purchases. You could be of the people who buy, with Jupiter still in Taurus, you could be buying land. Okay, you could be buying a house. You could be buying houses. Okay, we're getting like filthy rich because of that. Um, but also, you could be. It's not likely that you, or you could be unfortunately losing land, okay? But you will have to have other significations for this. Okay, I'm living in an area where very close by villages were evacuated, and our city that my family lives in, and I lived in for many years, was supposed to be slaughtered. And I can tell you I've seen some charts, because people came to me, and I've seen some charts, and I know, yes, of course, it's going to be in your chart where moving from a place to another is there. And we actually have this in the family. I was terrified, because this person's difficult. It's like, oh, how can I this? How can I this? Like, it's in the chart. Something is supposed to be changing with your home. Okay, so there have to be other significations. Some other significations are Uranus going direct in your fourth house on January 27. Okay, so again, there are things in life where the only examples I have of Aquarius ascendants are two astrologers, and they probably know better than me. So it's not like it's a reading for somebody who already knows this, but the common person, the common Aquarius person, it can mean both that you are buying real estate, or you could be, if you're making a purchase of land, you want to be cautious. It's going to be sudden, it's going to be fated, but you want to be cautious and you want to prepare, because I want you to look at the story of Maui, okay? And this is the clearest story where we've seen suddenly things happening, and they have many explanations, sozusagen, and you might be, you might be putting your money on this, and whoop, or you might be residing in a place and suddenly things go weird. The countries that are most affected by this Uranus going in Taurus, doing what it's doing, are Taurus-related countries. So we talk about Ukraine, we talk about Israel, unfortunately. We talk about Belgium, okay? And it's not Taurus, but I recently heard even in Netherlands some concerns that Putin might have interest in Netherlands, okay? So people are worried. And you see that what's being done on a global level is deporting refugees, is trying to go back to, Netherlands for the Netherlanders and so on, and every person should live in their country. We see a lot of weird things happening, and we see how this attempt to organize the land is giving weird results, so to speak, okay? So it doesn't mean that the situation as is not problematic. Of course it is, but there is a lot of chaos going on. So Uranus is going direct. It's already on the 19th degree, going direct in your fourth house on January 27. And this is a very big deal. It's as much a big deal as Pluto going into your first house. First of all, they're related, okay? the ruler of Pluto is in your second house, which is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. Yeah, right now she's in Sagittarius, she's going to get to Capricorn, then she's going to get practical, and so on and so forth. But before Venus gets practical, we get this connection where you could be using your money to buy houses because some people were evacuated, using your money to buy land because it was evacuated. Then you can run into land flippers, house flippers. One of the things I want to tell you that I've seen half touch in Netherlands court might be useful for you. Also real estate, how so many talks of real estate, is I saw a person was sharing a picture of the apartment. They had the tenant leaving and they took the floor with them. I'm not joking. And she blames it on the tenant, of course, but I saw this, I said, this is not the work of a person, of a single person, because why would a single person do this and dedicate so much into, you know what it takes to take all the floors out, okay? A person would not go this far to take all the floors out because they, first of all, where would they take it? If they have a place to take it, if one person, if they have housing, if they have a place to take it, they wouldn't take it from here, right? They wouldn't mess up with what they have. If they have something, they would not risk anything they have to mess up with a previous house, you know, owner that they used to live in. The only possibility is that this is not a person working for themselves. It can also be not the tenant. So what happens with the house flippers, they would put tenants, okay, because it's good for the insurance, because this, because that, but they want to take over your house. So what they're going to say in the beginning, when we were tenants, then we would see a lot of, we lived in a neighborhood that was prestige to investors because it was next to university. And so we would see a lot of signs of people hanging, saying, I want to buy this building, I want this one. Now, if you're the tenant, and they say, you have no reason to do that, you don't know the person. And then they say, oh, we will give you a month rent free or something like this if you tell your landlord, then to make a business and so on and so forth. We understood that something there is not kosher. Okay, in Hebrew we say it's not kosher. We didn't know what. Okay, all we thought was if I have a good landlord, I don't want that to change. And there's no reason that they would be wanting to sell a high prestige for investment area. And whoever is buying this, I don't know, I don't see the person. Why would somebody spend so much money on this? They're probably not a private person, okay? So I don't want to be living with a person that is, sometimes living by a company can be good, but if I don't know you and you're offering me all these things for free, I don't know how will you be in 5-10 years. I don't know, okay? And so what they began to do is to put some tenants that would cooperate with them and to take over the house in this way. What you, the landlord, thinks is that the problem is the tenants. You get what I'm saying? Because you see, oh my God, my tenant, they left, they took the floor, they took this. You come here in such shock, Uranus, fourth house, shock. You are in such shock that you just think, oh my God, the tenant. Yes, but you are so shocked that you don't even get what is actually going on. And it's got nothing to do with the tenant. The tenant, maybe it was a homeless that needed housing. We don't know. And they can write up a whole cover story, put the tenant there, so that once you are in contract with this tenant, they will, I don't know what they will do with this tenant, okay? But the thing is that you are going to be left with the house in this situation that is going to cost you more to renovate again, and you don't have who to sue. Because if it was one private, they would say, oh, this is the tenant. And you don't know even who are these people, okay? You only think about, all you know is the tenant. What will you run? Maybe this tenant is homeless. You will never get this money in your life. Maybe they will kill themselves, but you will not get this money. Unfortunately, suicide is also linked to Uranus. But what is happening in this situation is that you're angry at the tenant and you think, maybe how do I pick good tenants? There are even companies that offer you to check up on your tenants. It's got nothing to do with the tenants, okay? I'm not saying that there are not bad tenants. Of course there are, but you get my point. And so what happens eventually that you think about the tenant, and eventually, what will you want to do? You will want to sell the house, because investing in it, renovating again. How will I find good tenants? And then there will be another tenant, another person like this. Because if you want to rent a place, you have to go to a makler. Okay. And unless you live in a place where the maklers are old, okay, you don't know what to do. Okay, you don't know who this person is, and you need to pay them, and you need like the whole thing arranged, and they will connect you with an apartment. And so you see what is created. Okay, so if you turn, it can either be a makler that is trying to convince you to turn to the makler, or it can be a house flipper that is associated with that. Or if you go without a makler, without a real estate agent, what can happen is that even if you say, okay, I will not use the companies, just people, just me and the people, they can send somebody that's not at all the person. And if you go to contact the company, the checks for the tenants, okay, then what are you paying? You're paying protection. This is protection. Okay, so it can either come from these companies that they want you to pay protection, but the protection is, you will pay attention, the protection will always be so extensive that you would want to sell the house. Okay, and what happens if you have a couple of organizations working like this? They tell you, please, you have no money, no problem. What did Kawasaki do? I called him Kawasaki. Joe Kiyosaki or something like this. Yes, Kiyosaki. That wrote Rich Father, Poor Father. He told you everything about what they do. He just forgot to tell you one thing, that they don't pass it through their account. They pass it through the trust account. Okay? So everybody takes loans. Everybody takes loans. You have no money, no problem. You will take a loan. The tenant will, what tenant? One business principle that I learned from Tim Ferriss, actually, and I don't know where it's today, but 2017, when I was listening to his podcasts while learning programming a little bit, I was listening to his podcast, and I felt like what he teaches was more important than the programming that I was learning. And I just left it and kept listening to him. And he said, there's a principle, I'm not sure if it was him or someone he interviewed, the principle is called scratch your own itch. Okay, if you're not happy to pay rent, how will you? Okay, think about what circumstances am I happy to pay rent for this place? It's not my answer, it's your answer. You scratch your own itch. Okay, I am joyous spending money on essential oils. All I care about is that they will be manufactured in a way that is in good connection with nature. I love doing that. Okay, I don't like the MLMs. I don't like the pyramid schemes. What is your thing that you are happy to spend money on? Because eventually you scratch your own itch. If you are being told, no, I will take a loan and the tenant will pay, ooh, wow. Okay, it's the interest level, it's the inflation. We saw this in 2008, but for you it was a blind spot. This is why I'm most concerned about you. And Uranus is about shocking experiences regarding your home. Now with this yoga, with these guys, in this economy, it is about real estate for many of you. So shocking experiences to do with real estate. You might be trying to play it like the old way, and there are things that you're just not aware of. That the times have changed, and that is what you get in a reality check. And this is why banking collapsing, alongside with maybe your income, your supposedly passive income that you've invested a lot in, and you maybe are even a good landlord. With Taurus here, your tenant, but probably you want them to be comfy. So it can be this case. If you are a person who is not in the position of like to own the place, then you might be trying to purchase things, and these are a lot of schemes that you should be cautious from. I know it looks like, oh my God, I will never find a good deal. I will never. There are other ways to do that. I first want you to plant your seeds. I first want you to manifest, not now when the moon is growing, and think about these things, because you have been thinking about these things, and you see some things might be for you. Also, rules might be changing. You want to think about adverse possession. Will we still have adverse possession? How to do adverse possession? Because you can only have one apartment from adverse possession, okay? And how do we do adverse possession ethically? Okay, you don't want to kill the housing for a family that doesn't have another option, and the house was just vacant because one family member is sick, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, you need housing, okay? So there are these things. If it comes to you, looking to do something for you. And yes, you've probably been exposed even more than me, more than probably most of us, except for Scorpio ascendants, then that are getting to be exposed, or maybe Libra ascendants. You've probably been exposed to this. Okay, so a lot of housing stuff and shocking things to do with housing. And revolutions around housing, all of these things. Uranus is just going direct. What have you been through in the past 6 years? But I also want you to think about since 2018. What have you been dealing with since 2018? Because these things are having a chapter. We're getting ready to 2025 where Uranus is going to ingress into Gemini, which is the fifth house. And you want to be beginning to wrap things up. You want to be beginning to, and again, you will have more shocking information coming up. It's Uranus. Uranus has a silly walk, and it has to do with sudden disturbances. It has to do with chaos, but also with eurekas, with innovation, with technology. Okay, but in 2018, or maybe just a couple of, 2-3 years ago, I was thinking, oh, why can't we just like print food? We can print everything. Where's the problem? And now I'm finding out that, sometimes it involves cancer cells, sometimes it involves stem cells that are cruel to get, and that those animals that we are eating were hunting us. And even just this week, there was a conversation about food, and I realized that, oh, people have been not eating the big animals, okay? And this is hurting the small animals, because what do these animals? We think about, oh, cows just eat grass, or pigs just eat, whatever we give them. Whatever we give them was humans. So they eat small animals. So so when we are eating some of them, then we don't want it to be like apocalyptic days the way it is right now. We want them to have a life, but it's kind of like all these things, and there are more things to consider, which Uranus is going to wrap up. So for you, it is real estate. It is the real estate bubble. It is things you haven't seen coming, and sometimes you have seen them coming, or you have had the dreams. A lot of the people that were evacuated here in Israel, and I know it's funny to say here in Israel when there are like 20,000 deaths in Gaza, and people have been evacuated from the entire place. And so, like, I just say it because I can speak about what I know from the people, okay, the testimonies from the people. And I'm sure that on the other side, there are all other testimonies that they don't have access to. When it comes to like on a holistic levels, both Israel and Palestine need to treat children and women well. Okay, the Yemenite children thing and more stuff like this doesn't breed good to any of the world. Women being murdered because they don't want to marry this person, genital mutilation doesn't breed good infertility to land in all of the world. So this is the way I look at it. Not the nationalistic, the racistic, or whatever story, because we can go as many millions as we can. We're probably mostly Inuit people, okay, or African people or Inuit people. So But I have seen people who have had dreams, premonition dreams. They were dreaming that they are running somewhere, or that they are evacuated, that they have to find a place to stay, and stuff like this. Okay, they were dreaming about stuff like this, and eventually, okay, they were evacuated. So I'm not saying it's such an atrocity, but you want to pay attention to your dreams. So Mars is in your dream house, Mercury is going to enter there, then Venus is going to enter there. Pay attention when Venus enters Capricorn. I want to see, when does Venus enter Capricorn? You're having a big month. January is a big month, but some people have it bigger than others. January 23, Venus is entering your 12th house. Venus is ruling your 9th house. She's also ruling your 4th house. And so now you will be receiving, as of the end of January, you'll have a time where you will be receiving in your dreams, and also psychic attacks, unfortunately, things to do with your house and housing. Okay? You will be receiving such things, and you will, if you pay attention to those dreams, then you can have more of a premonition. What is planned? What are they? It doesn't mean that they will be successful in their plans, but at least you know what they're planning. Okay? Because like we've seen stuff, and we know that there are things that are planned, and there are ways that we can interfere, but that is something that you need to know. Lunations. Finally, we get to lunations. So for the lunations, January 11 is going to be the new moon in Capricorn. And for everybody to say, oh, it's a big new moon and 20 degrees Capricorn, good time to plant new seeds and stuff like that. Yes, absolutely. For you, it's in the 12th house. So, and it's going to affect your expenses. So you want to pay attention to what happens on this new moon, because it's a beginning that will echo when Uranus is direct, first of all, because Uranus is going direct on January 27. And now you will still have, this is an opening of a cycle that's going to be at least 6 months cycle. Okay. And now, until the full moon in Capricorn, yes. Now you are having this with, we are all having this with Uranus retrograde, but you are having this with Uranus retrograde in your 4th house. And this is going to echo through Uranus going direct and all the rest of the things that are going to happen, like Pluto going into your 1st house. So that is something that I do want you to consider. Yes, I did talk about, when I talked about Uranus, I also talked about Passover, and Uranus is going to go on the 22nd degree and conjunct Jupiter on the 21st and 22nd degree of Taurus at around April, which is also the holiday of Passover and the month of Nisan. That is a very important connotations that we do see is the last time this was on these degrees, we had the 7th of October, and then Jews' doorways were marked, some with Star of David, some with swastika, and there were even Christians that would put in a mezuzah, which is kind of like a Jewish symbol, they put on the door, and they add in a fish, okay, for the symbol of Christianity. You want to think back to where were you in this situation, okay? Because first of all, we don't know who did these things. We don't know where it came from. We don't know who did these things, okay? It was coinciding with a lot of demonstrations. They were calling a lot of things that people, if you meet actual Palestinian people, they have a lot of other things to say. Yes, if you actually talk to Palestinian people, oh my God, especially gay Palestinian, woo, Gay Muslim people, oh my God, they have other opinions. It doesn't mean that they see all the reality, but you know, we actually talk to gay Palestinian peoples. So the thing is that you want to think, where were you in this situation? Because this is affecting your house. Um, I want you to think back. It can be that you right now it's important to you to think back and to think through. Get acquainted with Procyon. Get acquainted with Algol. Okay, the story of Medusa Gorgon. And now I see things. I've already began to see this, and around that time there were also these issues. There were a lot of ritual sacrifice going on, in general in the world. Okay, and so you see, kind of like. A blast from the past, people thinking that first of all, I discovered it, like I saw a Versace watch, and the way they saw Medusa Gorgon, they saw Algol as the temptress, the seductress, because before the rape she was very sensual woman. She was comfortable in her sensuality. She was very beautiful, and she was seen as the seductress. This is the symbol of Versace. I didn't even know this, okay, because I don't look at brands that much. So I was looking at watches and seeing this. And even the person who put he designed the candle, and because I bought the candle from someone who was basically survivor of forced sex work into of Algol, I saw this, and I asking him if this was created by her. He said, no, it's the owner doing this. And he said, oh, you can give it, if some nice woman buys this watch, you can give this candle to her as a gift. He was knowing the myth of Algol as the seductress. He did not know the other part of that myth, because people were thinking that she was seductress and she tempted, okay? And she was murdered for betrayal, okay? Well, she was actually raped and murdered, and disbelieved by Palasatina, which was a justice warrior. And so Algol magically is protective of the voices of people who are disbelieved for going through sexual assault. This is the story of Algol, okay? If you didn't know that, first of all, wake up. I'm not blaming. It's just like how different people, okay? This owner of the store was not like a violent person or anything like that. He just thought that Algol was seductive. So if you see a nice woman, just give this candle to her. And I'm like, something's not clicking here. Something is not clicking. I bought this candle from a survivor of forced sex trafficking because of the story of Medusa Gorgonas, and I honored Algol by this purchase, okay? So we get acquainted with Algol magically, and why she's so protective magically, okay? And she's protective from all of these things to do with the atrocities that we see in the world in general. It's not like the 6 million people that died in Congo died in ways that are in any way more humane than the 14,000 to 12,000 that died in the 7th of October. Okay, so and Africa is thinking to sue Israel for war crimes. I'm like, okay, somebody's going to talk about Congo. Anybody? we don't hear nothing about the Kurds either, and this is pretty significant. So yes, I want you to get acquainted with Algol. I want you to think about the stories of the slaves being released from Egypt and everything to do with that, with being free, liberation, because many people are going to use this. You can be complete atheistic, okay? But to understand what other people think, you need to understand theology, at least basic, and some esoterics basic. If you don't know that there was human sacrifice, you're like, why would a person do that? They saw it as a ritual of sacrifice in some way that feeds certain entities. And sometimes they think the entities would want them to do this. You know what I heard from a man who is doing magic in Africa, not astrological magic, just magic, working with deities in Africa. He said, yes, in the past we would have human sacrifice, but now if you give hibiscus instead of blood sacrifice, not talking about menstrual blood or stuff that are ethically consumed, no, not that. But if you give hibiscus, if you grow hibiscus to the gods instead of blood sacrifice, instead of even slaughtering an animal for the sacrifice, they accept it, they like it. Okay, it's with the people. And when I look to the Abrahamic God, the story of Yitzchak, remember that God was insisting with Abraham. He said, why? Why do you want these things, this genitalia mutilation? Why do you want this thing? And Abraham said, please, I need something physical. He said, okay, do this, but nothing more. Don't cut yourself, don't harm yourself. Okay? Because humanity was going to another level of connection with divinity. We didn't have to sacrifice ourselves because we saw in nature, okay, life feeds on itself in many ways, shapes, and forms. And I've also been watching Freya, who not Freya the goddess, but Freya who is working with Freya the goddess, and she talks about life feeds on itself. Talk about Nordic shamanism, Nordic witchcraft, which I know hardly anything about. I'm just learning myself, and you see that animal feeds on animal feeds on animal. So if you want to work with an entity, you think, okay, I will show them our respects. We'll give them one of our people or one of our animals, and then we'll have these relations. But these are entities that don't even need this type of sacrifice. They can do it like hibiscus flower. It's our insistence to have it physical more so than the deity's desire. Okay, but now that you know both that those things exist, and that there are ways to work with these deities that are absolutely not ritualistic in a way that is feeding on life in that way. I mean, of course, you put a high, when we eat plants, we also eat life, yes, but you have more wisdom, and you have more power to understand what is going on. Why is this thing happening? What is going on? It's a part of humanity going also to the next level of consciousness, probably, yeah. Because in those situations, basically what happens after is people see that cruelty is not taking us anywhere. Okay, war is ridiculous, that cruelty is not taking us anywhere. And it's not the why it is happening. It is like, this is happening, what we can change is to understand that this is not, okay, rape is not liberation. Okay, rape is not freedom. Rape is not sexual freedom. Because essentially you want sexual freedom. Essentially you want to be expressing yourself creatively and connecting with the land and connecting with the people and connecting with this, connecting with that. Rape is not going to get that desire. But it's not the people to people that we are talking about. There are more things that are happening, and we are dealing with the hidden occult practices of people that we don't even know. And any structure that you are supposed to listen to the rules is without questioning them is highly problematic. Okay, any place where you're supposed to not ask questions, not sleep good enough. Albert Einstein, he had been sleeping a lot to get to his imagination, to his dreams, and to derive his innovation from this. If you get a homeless person, this is real testimony, that gets a sleeping ticket in the free country, in the United States, in the land of the free, you understand the problem that we have as a society. Okay, if you cannot sleep, of course you will not be having big dreams, and you will not be having big innovations, and this is not a desired state for humanity. But also people need to realize this about themselves. If they think that, oh, this homeless person is like, oh, they should get a job, oh, the parasites, the this, the that. I always like to put upon the song Parasite of Nick Drake when I hear such opinions. because this is it's keeping us stuck, and we all have this hidden ableism somewhere. Okay, this is, we say, oh, we should do this, we should do that, and then life happens. So the lunation in your 12th house will have an echoing voice while all things are direct, and the planets are going to be direct as of January 27, basically, to April 2, I believe. So this is 2 months, 2 whole months. We're going to have everything direct, launching projects, but also coming to closure with things. Things are moving direct, okay? Got good endings, good beginnings, okay? Coming to closure with things. Now going to have Mars in Capricorn right now. We're gonna have a time where things are moving forward a little bit. We're exiting this high maintenance retrograde period. We have to think everything 1,000 times before we set things into motion. Now we're gonna have 2 months of things being set into motions and moving direct, okay? The retrogrades begin, but this is something important kind of like to keep in mind. And to find elections, anything you need to start, anything you need to be moving smoothly, anything you need to be launching at this time, it's going to be a great time to do so. Now, the last donation I want to talk about is January 25, and it's going to be the full moon in Cancer. In Leo. We've had full moon in Cancer. The full moon in Leo. And the full moon in Leo is 5 degrees Leo and 5 degrees Aquarius. Yes, I remember by heart. And it's going to be in a T-square with Jupiter. Okay, which is supposed to be resolved by 6 degrees Scorpio. And the ruler Mars is in Capricorn. So this means that the lunations this month for you are kind of like you're watching people be having smooth beginnings and eureka resolutions to conflicts that are masterful, while you're just having weird dreams and shit, and kind of like, well, haven't we been suffering enough from that? And again, I'm not saying that nothing good can happen. Of course, something good can happen. You can realize how certain things affect your health. The Leo and Aquarius, this is your 1st and 7th house, and is in conflict with the 4th house. Okay, supposed to be resolved in the 10th house, but is actually resolved in the 12th. So if you have a conflict with your partner and conflict with your home, and now you're going to have, you might be doing something on a public situation, kind of like your public reputation, or with one of the parents, is going to undermine you a little bit. Okay, so you're going to be, it's kind of like, oh, there's a problem with my partner, there's a problem at home, let's just concentrate on work. And then you do there are hits and there are misses, and then there are misses because your 12th is Capricorn, and you're kind of like, oh, and I lost a lot of my reputation for that thing that I did or said, and so on and so forth. And that might not be like playing in your favor. Whereas other people are going to have this brand new thing. It's kind of like a eureka. It's like, oh, I have a solution, then I conduct it. But for you, it's kind of like your hidden enemy conducts it, or your boss, or something like this. So there's a bit of a pitfall. What are the good things for you in January? First of all, pay attention to Venus in your 12th. It might not be the good that, kind of like, the 12th is also the bedroom. I mean, you get a lot of things in your fix your bedroom. Jordan Peterson says, fix your room. So fix your bedroom. Who knows? Maybe you'll find some good stuff there. With Mars, Mercury, and Venus, and a lot of Pluto there might be some quite interesting stuff to explore. So you might want to be spending time in the bedroom. And you definitely get to know yourself and others more this way. And so that can be also a good time. It's not just a bad time. You can be learning about astral projection, learning about, you'll be having a lot of aha moments when it comes to the 12th, because Venus is really not only your ninth house of worldview, but also your fourth house with Uranus there. So Uranus is the eureka moments. Venus in the 12th house, it can mean that you're having a eureka moment about, you know, whether it's your fantasies, your sexuality, or eureka moments, or like, I remember when I discovered that astral sex was a real thing. It was it was actually in therapy. Um, it was the day I don't know what's energy. And I was like, oh my gosh, my sex life has probably been more rich than I thought. Okay, so you might be having this kind of like eureka moments, but it also means that you need to set boundaries there. Um, and, uh, uh, and there are going to be a lot of aha moments. Okay, they can also be, if nothing else, you know, is hampering, you know, this. There can also be some nice pleasures. So the 12th house is also hidden wealth. It's not just hidden, it's not just loss and grieving, but it's also hidden wealth. It's your ability to channel, it's your ability to receive insight and to have connection. Venus is connection. So Venus is going to create connection in the dream world and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, it's also a house of betrayal and stuff. It's like, I don't want to paint it like rose-colored glasses, but we don't want to ignore that this is the house that rules the bedroom, hotels, and your hidden sexual life. Okay, kind of like what you do in private with you and you and with you and another or others. So those are the lunations. This is January for you. Any more highlights? Well, Pluto is exiting your 12 for a while as of January 21. It's a highlight. I mean, it's going to your first, yes, of course, but it's exiting your 12th. You're taking a break from Pluto in your 12th. This is lovely, you know. You're going to have another glimpse, another one final wrapping at the end of this year, and November 19 is where it's out of there for good. So you're wrapping up Pluto in your 12th. You're dealing with the same issues, kind of like the same issue over again, the same issues in loop. And now you're getting more of a glimpse of like, hey, this is how Pluto feels out of my 12th. Okay. For me, I'm getting that this is how Pluto feels out of my 12th when Pluto is in Capricorn. I'm like, oh, I have social life again. Oh, for a little while, I'm not a black sheep. Then it's going to be like 20 years of what the heck is going on. But that is, yeah, but you're having Pluto in your first house. So at least she's not in the 12th, is what I can say. And any more highlights there? Well, Uranus moving direct. It's not a bad thing that it's moving direct, because it means that you're going to realize what you need to realize for this chapter in your life. And it means also that you're going to be moving forward with the setbacks that you got when Uranus was retrograde. Okay? You're kind of like, okay, I see where this can go. Of course, there are going to be surprises on the way. But at least I have, I understand what's, like, I understand what's up. Okay? And this is, it really is going like to those places, and you're really understanding of, for you, it is more like your home, your family, maybe even your ancestry, and housing per se. It's the foundations of your life. So it's not easy to have something rocking the foundations of your life. If we're going to have an earthquake or not, I know there should be one in our region, which is the Syrian African crack. I'm not joking, this is how it's called. השבר הסורי-אפריקאי. So I know we should be having one. I know the foundations of, like, I know it's coming, and we know it's coming for a decade. My ex-bestie had a lot of revelations about this. So I was informed, and like really most of the funny stories have involved that and sugar-free lemonade. But the thing is that we know it's supposed to be. Okay, so what people call natural disasters, will there be volcanic eruption? I don't know. And there are many ways to be volcanic. It can be the rage of the land, and people can say, oh, it's the underworld is coming, or the lower astral. Again, you want to be understanding where do people come from with their religions, especially when Uranus is approaching, when Jupiter is approaching Uranus. So you're preparing for this time. They are co-present at this time. And you're preparing yourself. It's affecting those things affect the foundations of your life right now. So and you know what happens when something like this happens, and you also had Rahu there. So you definitely have been changing something, whether it's around housing or your locations, like you've already tended to this, but you're in the presence of Uranus, like Rahu is out of there, Rahu Ketu is out of there, but the presence of Uranus is still on, and it's still present, okay? It's still present. What people normally do at such time is that they tend to their career house, especially when Ketu is there, so kind of lean back to Ketu, which at least this January is not going to be so available for you around the new moon. Might not be the same later, but Mars, ruler of your 10th and your 12th, you understand what I'm talking about. So you can't really tend, if you have been a workaholic, and this was your problem with Scorpio, 10th house could be, then you're going to be facing a complete crisis where the foundations of your life are rocking and you can't work your way, literally, Arbeit macht nicht frei. I've been saying this for a long time while recording these videos, okay? So Arbeit macht nicht frei. The work is not liberating per se. Of course, doing something that you love. Yes, my back is aching from all the planting, and I'm so fortunate and grateful and filled with gratitude, and thankful that I could do this and that I have time to rest. But work in itself is not liberating. We cannot always rely on. Literally, the word occupation is interesting in this way. We cannot always rely on occupation to liberate us from our troubles. This is said the girl living in a country that's been accused of being an imperialist. Well, actually being a country of refugees at the same time. But most countries are probably like that. So, that's it.